Wait, Donato, Jethro or Gibbs?
I don't even know what
Bro,
that's
you're
a
just now
reference
getting on
to.
Hot Ones. I was on Hot
That's
Ones 2
an
years ago.
NCIS reference.
Jethro.
All right, everything on the Twitch looks to be okay.
Yeah, I already looked at it. It's looking good. Let's stream. Let's pog.
I'm Poggy.
All right, buddy. Welcome back to the Pogcast.
No,
It's me,
no,
guest starring
okay.
Baku Slayer.
Yodcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Update Required, Episode 4. Topics is careers. I have my 3 high school friends with me. I have Heroic Knight Evan, That Shy Guy Carl, and Baku Slayer Elliot. His address is 41.
We're doxing
Yeah,
Elliot.
bro. Come at
We're
me,
doxing
chicken.
Elliot.
Self-dox.
Elliot's like, I'll dox myself. But yeah, so we wanted to make this episode's topic about careers, as we're all transitioning into life. At least me, slower than everyone else, but a good time to get reference from my friends. We're all transferring from college and simple life in our hometowns to now getting big boy jobs and moving on. And Elliot kind of inspired this topic because he's been questioning a lot about what his next move is. And Elliot, you were talking about how you don't know what you want to do next. Like, what if you want to work in finance, where you want to live, where you want to move. Tell us about it, Elliot. What's going on?
Just gotta not choke on my chicken real quick.
Why
All
are you
right.
eating chicken during a podcast? Didn't you read the rules?
Elliot,
So-
don't
so-
choke your chicken on stream.
Yeah, stop choking the chicken.
Pog.
It's already going to shit.
All right. So basically, I've been working at this job for about a year, and I do enjoy the work. I do enjoy what I'm doing, but it made me question a lot of things. There's part of the job that I do like, and part of the job that I'm not necessarily that big of a fan of. So I've been taking parts of what I enjoy and parts of what I don't necessarily enjoy as much, and I've been just doing more research. I was planning on going to law school after I graduated college, but unfortunately, that ended up not working out. I didn't have much of a vested interest in it, and I kind of found myself aimless. Um, Ultimately, I find myself at a crossroads now because I believe that business school or going into a finance-related field might be an option for me, and so I've been exploring into that aspect. Now, finance is a massive, massive field, and I've just been sort of sinking myself into it. I've been trying to get takes from some of my friends and some of my family who has experience with it. And it's just really a very transitionary time because I feel that something that they tell you in high school is get ready for college, or something they tell you in college is get ready for the workforce. And something that they don't tell you when you enter the workforce is that you're going to be moving jobs and possibly career paths very, very quickly and very rapidly because you don't really know what you want to do yet. So trying to navigate those waters is a little murky at times. So, the purpose of this podcast and some of these discussions are really to sort of flesh that out and really dive into what those waters look like.
So you're talking about, you said that, they don't tell you about changing career paths and changing what your job field might be. Now, I want to target this over to Carl and Evan. Did you guys, what you work now, did you expect to be in that? And is there a future upcoming to switch career paths? Is there anything now that what you do, I don't know if you want to include what you do or not, but with what you do now, is there a sight in the future to change career paths? I'll let Carl take it first.
Okay, so with that, I've been working at Back Through for a year now as their logistics and marketing manager. And when I went for the interview, it was just for a basic logistics position, not even the manager. And in the interview, I said, okay, I'm going to be the logistics manager, and also, do you have anyone for marketing? And I led with that. And they're just like, are you sure? And no, we don't. So I was just like, okay, I'll take over your logistics program, and then I'll become your marketing manager. And I can balance both of those jobs out and still do it. And over the last year, I've pretty much proven that. And now they're trying to get me to dip it a bit into sales so I get commissions too. And a lot of it's just recognizing opportunity when it's there. Usually researching not only the type of job you want, but the businesses you're applying to gives you a lot of information. Like if you even parse a business's website for like a couple hours before an interview, you'll be able to talk like you have experience in the field. And it's just building off of that and also working with the actual training that the business does provide in order to add to your resume and sort of build up your experience and your career.
So,
Stuff like that.
no, sorry, not to cut you off.
No, you're fine. That's where it ended.
So with this, with like kind of getting something that like I assume that you weren't like you were like I'm just gonna throw it out there, have the confidence, see what I get from this. Are you like does this kind of field resonate with you? That you're like, oh, I like this, or are you gonna use that kind of confidence and now this experience and kind of like expand your horizons and be like, if I can do this, can I do this? Is there another step to this? Like, is there a next step to your career paths, or are you gonna kind of continue with this field?
So yes, I'm gonna continue down the sales line. I know that commissions are like sort of iffy depending on the field, but if it's a consistent field like the one that I'm jumping into, which is computer recycling, it's very niche market, but it's consistent because of HEPA regulations, because of law regulations, stuff like that, where they have to delete the memory no matter what, and people are always buying new equipment with new budgets because they got to use their budget. So I'm entering a field which I know has high retention and high sales. So I feel confident in the career path, and then I'm also looking to learn more as I go along, which my job is providing me with. Going further, I think I'll spend maybe 2 more years here, and then I'm going to branch out to a different company that does something similar, but gives me the benefits that uses my experience.
Of course, yeah. I mean, we're all pretty young, relatively young. I think we're actually like 2 steps ahead of where a lot of people that we know, or a lot of people in the past that we've talked to. I think we're in a pretty good disposition as we are now in the time that we're at now. But I want to move on. Kind of, it's
Before we do,
oh yes,
Carl, I just wanted to kind of branch off something that you said, especially to some of the viewers. Now, if you're going to be going in more of a sales direction, one thing that I learned when I was job searching is that it's very important to make sure that there's a base salary involved in the sales job, because that's a good way to avoid a lot of more sketchy marketing schemes as well as more pyramid schemes. So, Carl, I want to ask you, when you're going in the sales direction, I'm assuming you're going in with a base salary built into your commission.
Yes, so it would be matching the current salary for my duties that are already existing, and then added on another 10 grand a year for that.
That's
So
excellent.
pretty good. Yeah.
listen, I
very
don't
good.
think he's gonna. I understand your concerns, but it's not gonna be like, oh, Carl's doing pretty well. Last time I talked to him, the next time I talked to him, he's offering me some pyramid scheme. He's like, hey, you want? What was it?
Hey, we
this
know a few
makeup?
people like that.
we don't
Hey,
talk. We're not
man,
gonna mention the name.
I got this.
but
I got this shampoo that's like more than shampoo, but like
I don't want to wear it.
Please,
Put it on.
like,
Anyway,
please buy some up.
I gotta
I'm
sell
gonna
you
go
the
back.
price real quick. Hold on.
you like AT&T? Anyway, all right, moving on. Very interesting. I think this is a very interesting scenario. We're gonna now throw the dart over into Evan's court. So your situation is actually very interesting. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's like it's good. I'm not like commenting the quality of it, but it's a very interesting situation that you're in. That you went to school for nuclear engineering and then you took a different path.
I can speak on this.
Huh?
I can talk about it a little bit.
Well, I was gonna
Let me-
say, you went to school for nuclear engineering, and then halfway
Yeah.
through, like during that, you were like you found yourself in a position, comfortability, and like passion for a different field of manufacturing helmets. Like, at what like was there a point that you were like, I don't really like nuclear engineering, and this is more of my style, or was it just kind of like an opportunity given to you, and you were like, you know what, I'm gonna take this and run with it? Like, what was like
It
what was going
was
through your head when this all kind of developed?
So to give some background. I felt, excuse me. It's been like you said. It's been an interesting opportunity for me. A very unique sense where I went to school for a very hard degree, and I ended up getting it. So like I thought I wanted to go into maybe like health physics, like design X-ray rooms, work in hospitals, maybe even down the line help program the simulations that of the actual scanners, where they scan like PET scan, CT, all that. But halfway through my college career, I realized that I didn't really want to do it anymore, because just the coursework was so difficult, and it was just the the sacrifice I was making of my personal health to get to say I did it, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then when I was helping my brother try to sell his patent for his engine, get it out there, that's when I met this man named Donnie. And he said like that he was like an angel investor. He wanted to help us out. And then while he was helping us, he said, oh, by the way, I'm also helping this other guy with his startup company for motorcycle helmets. And he goes, I really believe that this is $1 billion industry. And he goes, getting a robot. I go, oh, hey, I did robotics in high school. I know robots. And then he basically offered me a job at this startup. And then I came across this crossroad where I was like, okay, do I stick with the safe path, the safe but difficult path of, applying my degree at some job where I can, make easily, some good money, but I would have a good job, or do I say, do I take a gamble and go with the startup company? And I chose that 2.5 years ago. I decided to come on. Well, first I treated it as just like, like an internship, quote unquote, over the summer. So I started, we got the robot, and then I never left the company because they were like, listen, like I realized I was like, this company is about to blow up. And if I can get it on the ground floor on this, then I won't just be entering a job as just like a cog in the wheel or just like some low level position. I would have a chance to really be like, make something. And as the company grew, I would grow up with it and be up there in the upper echelons of the ranks of the company. So I did it. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I wanted to do it. I saw an opportunity, and I contemplated it for a while. I went, do I stick with nuclear? Do I go to the company? Do I do this? And the job I'm doing right now, I'm basically doing production work, which is, you go to a company, you see a guy doing factory work. What does he do? Like, did he go to college? Like, yeah, like that guy's a nuclear degree. And he goes like, why is he doing this work? It's very below what I'm capable of doing, but the opportunity costs or the potential
Outcomes.
benefits I can get from doing this far outweigh, or it was incentive enough to where like I have a base salary, I have stock options, I have a bonus, and as we grow, all that's going to grow with me. And I feel like I was given a very unique opportunity, and I'm very thankful and grateful that I've gotten this opportunity. And looking in the future, like I'm not leaving this company. I'm gonna stick with this company.
I mean, I think it's a pretty good thing to take that gamble on, right? So like you're still within the realms of engineering, and it does feel a lot more personal. I feel like the cold world of engineering is just black and white, right? It's just numbers, mathematics, measurements, statics, thermos, all this different math. It's just a lot of like concrete
a lot of
information,
modeling.
but there's not that soul. There's not that. There's no compulsive, compelling feeling that it's like I'm putting in what I can give, and I can get something out of it, or give someone else what I can give, And I think the position you landed in is probably one of the best things you could possibly have done. You have a degree. It's still you're working within engineering, and it kind of like the end justify the means in terms of like, you feel good, you're gonna make money, and you're doing essentially what you studied, right?
It's like no, I'm not doing anything close to what I studied, which I'm fine with because I realized I was like, if I actually get a job in nuclear, I'm prone to make mistakes. Like I make mistakes all the time in my schoolwork. I'll admit that I'm not perfect, and it's like in certain fields it's like, oh oopsie, I made a little fucky wucky. You're like, okay, that's fine. If I go, I made a fucky wucky, I'm blowing up a reactor and killing thousands of people, and myself included. So I'm just like, I don't want to do that, like. Mm-hmm. And then I realized
you don't want the stress.
That if like the money would have been cool, 6 figures off the bat, yeah, cool, I'll take that. But that would be bald. I would have been bald in like 3 years.
Yeah.
I would have looked like I was 40. Like the stress, I would have been like obese because I just would have just kept eating and drinking just to deal with it. Actually, just one quick side tangent. One of my nuclear professors openly admitted to be an alcoholic because she was like, "Yeah, you can't do drugs because federal level tests and shit, but you can drink." And boy, do I like drinking.
She goes, "You can drink," and boy, do I drink. But so kind of what I was talking about with the whole like giving what you can and like kind of feeling like a passion project that also kind of suits what you studied and what you did. Elliot, because you work with Medicare, I don't know if I can disclose this information on the base level of Medicare.
Yeah, I work for a home health care company specializing in home health care. Private payers, insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid. We accept a lot.
Do you get a feeling of like satisfaction or kind of like a vocational feeling of like fulfillment by doing this? And if you do, like, is this something like there's another part of that market that you would want to like apply for, or is it like, yes, I do, but this is what I want to do? Like, what's as you say when you want to go into financing, is this just solely based on like not like personal benefits of
Is it? Am I just doing it for the money? Is what you're asking me?
Yes. Or
I get
like,
it. It's fine. You
would
can ask that.
Feel a little bit of like comfort in helping people with financing, or is it just mostly just like, I'm here to make money? It's a job.
Well, if I was just there to make money and be a job, I'd be an amoral puppet on Wall Street. But not yet. I
Not
still
yet.
got a lot of soul to sell. Once I sell it all, then maybe you'll find me there.
Fair enough.
Until that
Line.
point, currently in my job, I'll admit there are moments where I do find it very satisfying, especially when it's much more tangible. The people that I'm helping and the things that I'm doing, it's very administrative and it's more corporate side. So it's a lot of regulating and following up on authorizations and working with things called managed Medicaid companies, which are basically private insurance companies that the state gave contracts to in order to manage Medicaid and save the state money. So they're a pain to work with because they never want to pay you because they keep their contract and get bonuses based on their bottom line, which is how little money they spend. So it's a nightmare of a system. But there are times where the whole service portion, the people who are getting services bleeds through, whether it be someone, gives me a call directly or someone gives out my number like they shouldn't have, but I end up talking to somebody and it's very kind and I feel like I'm helping somebody. Those times do happen. However, I am very aware that although I do feel that, it's not nearly as often that I encounter that in my current job, and I find that I get immense satisfaction about finding creative. I find immense satisfaction about finding creative solutions to difficult problems. I find that I'm more on the administrative side. If there is an issue and traditional routes are not working, then to sort of find a workaround and you just utilize some of the tools that I have and being able to show people even that aren't in my company, things that say, well, perhaps could we do this and that, and instead of doing this, we could do that. Finding those creative workarounds and getting to the end point is, basically my bread and butter. That's what gives me the satisfaction in my job. So although I do find pleasure in helping other people, I don't know if I would make it a career. I do like to help people, say in my spare time. I enjoy volunteering, and I find that I can do that, and I will do that, and I do currently do that in my spare time when I will not be working. However, I do also appreciate the fact that you need to, a lot of times, in order to help people at certain levels, you need to have the means to do so. You need to put your air mask on before you put on someone else's. So I wouldn't mind going into a field where I would never go into a field where I'm actively hurting anybody just for the money. I would never work for, say, if I were to go into law, I would turn down a job, say, for a firm and then work on a big tobacco case. I wouldn't actively work for an organization that's hurting people just for the money. But if it's, say, amoral and I make enough money to be able to be philanthropic with it, then I would see no problem with that. And truthfully, I gain more satisfaction in my job with finding creative problems or finding creative solutions to difficult problems than I do one-on-one helping people, because I feel that I can help more people with what our society values, which is capital, than my personal self at times.
So kind of branching off of the whole thing, talking about other people and morals and like helping people and all that stuff like that. Something that I've thought about a lot with being in my school, because I go to school for graphic design right now at YSU, and so I always think, because like when you're in a class with like math or science or all these different fields that are very like physical, like you do the math and whatnot. Being in an art school, it's a little different because it's based on how people think. Like there's one thing if you can think about 2 + 2, but if you have to think about whether it's blue versus red, it kind of creates this new level of ingenuity and genuine thought processes. And with that, you meet people who have different ways of thinking. And I've always thought about making a collaborative group with people, whether we're in school or out of school? Like, what if instead of looking for jobs when we get out of school and we graduate, what if we made our own group? What if we took the best photographer from here? This guy knows how to use this program. This person can 3D model. This person can 3D print. This person has connections. We get some business people. What if we Mod Podge a bunch of us, like Rugrats together and made a group? And with that, I want to ask you guys, and Carl, because you are now branching out. You can do marketing, you can do sales, you can do management, all these different things. Is it within the scope of your interests to create your own group for whatever skills you have, and kind of like be like, I want to grab someone who can do this, I want to get someone who can do this, I can do this? Like, is it, and we'll start with Carl, with you guys, is there any plans in the future to create your own business, like to be your own boss and also kind of like develop your own business?
So yes, and I've actually discussed this with Elliot in his own ideas, where I have the experience with setting up a business. With my prior work experience, I know how to do Duns and Bradstreet numbers. I know how to renew patents. I know how to basically go up and down from getting the sale all the way to reconciling the invoice. And with that, you get the experience of, okay, the only thing I'm not doing in this business is signing the checks. And at that point, it just becomes, okay, let me actually save up, hold on investments, actually gain some passive income until I'm comfortable with establishing a business, saying, okay, if you join me, I will pay you. And I'll pay you consistently as long as you help me gain money to pay you.
So
And
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I want to say I can also speak on this because I literally am working for a startup company right now.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, definitely startup companies are great and it's a great thing to do. But also, like, I'm from working at this place for the past 2.5 years, I've come to realize just how difficult it is to really get a startup going. Because
Yeah.
first you need capital, you need business licenses. If you're trying to do some IP, you need patents to protect that. IP is very expensive. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like pretty much like my company, like in the past few months, has spent upwards of like $250,000 just on intellectual property patents. Like you need a shitload of money to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like tens of thousands. Like you need
No,
hundreds, if not to multiple millions of dollars, depending on what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tricky thing about being a startup and not having a source of income is that paying people, it's not guaranteed. Like, for the past 2.5 years, I basically, up until very recently, I could not assume that I was going to get paid on every cycle. And I've gone multiple months without getting paid because the whole COVID thing. Like, that was a little blip in the radar, but
that was a blip in everyone's goddamn radar, dude.
Yeah. That was that sour cream and rice time.
It still is, dude. Coming from Purple Central, Ohio, it's.
But I think definitely start doing a startup is, I believe, a good thing to want to strive for, and if you can really pull it off, and then you become like, oh, like I own this company, therefore, like you have controlling major of the stock, like I'm trying to say the majority holder of the stock, like all the profits, you get to reap the profits, but the day-to-day operations of a startup company and getting it off the ground and running,
always moving,
because in the beginning it's like either you have to apply for grants. Like this is like I went through this process when I was with Joseph when we were trying to get his engine. I was like, okay, let me go research some grants. Like, can I get some money via grants? Find investors who are willing to say, you know what, yeah, I'll give you like $50K, just like for like in exchange for like say like 5% of the company, because they're like, yeah, like, and then you have to like sell people and convince them that whatever you're trying to do, it will be
legitimate
and and will be profitable. Because if you yourself are not convinced that your idea or whatever you're trying to put out there will make money, then it will never start. Like, it will never get off the ground, because if you're not convinced, and like my boss, just to give perspective for this startup company I'm at, has sacrificed the last like 12 years of his life, where he dumped all his life savings into this thing. Like failure after failure, he just kept going. He'd stop work, save up money, go back into it. But it's just
It's a process.
It's a mountain to climb, like a very large mountain to climb. But if you can do it, power to you to go for it, like do it. And then getting a group. I also like the idea of like Denial's idea of getting a group of people together who are all good at certain
Different
things.
expertises. Yeah.
And you're saying like, hey, yeah, let's just get together, form business. You don't have to call it a business, but you say let's get together, let's find something to do where we can, maybe like in Denial's case, like make a show, pilot a show out there, get it out on like YouTube or something. Try to get like a deal with like one of the like TV shows, like maybe like Cartoon Network or like Adult Swim or like something like that.
Following in a sponsor, yeah.
Yeah, and like building a portfolio, just like getting people who can do a bunch of different things, and then you can create a really cool product. And then to speak on the difference between art school and engineering school, yes, it is very different. It is depressing in engineering school because it's just learn equations, do the math, and if you do it wrong, you're an idiot. Like drop
the
out.
way I always thought was if the answer is 2 + 2 and the answer is 4, everyone can get 4, but nothing is worse than walking into class with like a poster and be like, damn, this looks really good, and you look over and someone's like, fuck, they just did it but better, and I didn't think of that, like you can't get 2 + 2 = 4 better than somebody else, but that it's a very interesting it's very good that you have that insight on that, but like I said, we're still young. We have plenty of time to do this. I know so many people who are like, yeah, and I'm very successful, and I'm 55 years old. And it's like, what the fuck were you doing for 30 years? Like they make it seem like, well, it's because they make it seem like they just now got like settled and they're comfortable. It's
always a process.
Yeah, no, most definitely it's a process. But Elliot, is this within your realm of interest to make your own business, or do you kind of just want to have like somebody above you, just like I'll let him?
Well, before I start on that, I got a clarifying question. Has anybody, Donato, this is directed toward you, has anybody ever walked into class with a poster and then everybody else had like a slideshow?
And have a what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's what I mean. I mean, like, 2 + 2 = 4. It's like, oh, that had a better poster to me. Anybody just walking with like the wrong art type? Like, like everyone's got like sketched posters and you got a book with like crayon. You're just like,
sometimes we have there have been a few times where we'll have a project made and be like, okay, we're gonna do it with this ramifications, and then someone will just walk in with a complete wrong project and we'll be like,
just the wrong media platform.
Yeah, like that's happened a lot because people don't read this. Like it'll be those situations where I'm the only one who has the wrong thing, but it's because I did it right. Like I'll read the project, bring it in, and then I'll look and be like, did I do this right? And everyone has like completely off the wall, all just wrong, and it'll be like, I don't know if I'm wrong or if everyone else is wrong. And in most situations like that, usually you're the wrong one, but in that situation, I was the only one who was right.
Yeah, the assignment was a poster and I brought in a sculpture. No, no, but getting back to the point for the more entrepreneurial side of everybody's trade, I think that eventually one day, I would like to, sort of become my own boss, so to speak. And, I think saying that, the thing is, I don't like saying that. I don't like saying, become your own boss, because I think that it's been weakened a lot, notably by, things like pyramid schemes or basically things along those lines. I think being your own boss is crap, because I don't think that, you should be using the connotation boss at all. I feel like, you're supervising yourself, you're maintaining a business, but you're not bossing yourself around per se. You need to have the innate entrepreneurial, spirit and the conservativeness to responsibly run one, and you need to have the confidence to do so. I would like to eventually be part of something like that in a leadership role where, sure, I would, quote, be my own boss necessarily, but I also, it wouldn't be just, wouldn't be me, with no net under me thinking like, oh, I'll sell X amount of these and, I'll be fine. I'll be able to eat for the winter. No, I'd like to be part of something that grows exponentially. And if I have a leadership role in that, I'm not necessarily answering to anybody, but listen, a board of directors, everybody on the board of directors answers back to the board of directors. So everybody always answers to somebody. There's nobody ever in a company who doesn't answer to anybody. It never works as a dictatorship. The CEO, the CFO, the owner, they're all on the board. The senior most board member needs board approval. There's never any definites. So the whole idea of being your own boss is not a great one. I would like to be, you know, in a leadership role in, you know, a startup company with, you know, people that whom I respect me, and we could, you know, do a serious project. I think that would be something that I'd be interested in.
Sort
But
of like an
maybe in the
office manager. Not to interject.
not so much an office manager, more like a more like a chief executive.
Chief executive or project leader?
At the startup stage, they would essentially be synonymous.
I'm saying I get that. I'm saying like when you get further into the process. To not
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
no.
you.
Uh,
Yeah. Project leadership, and then eventually, as it takes off, you know, removing myself a bit from the process as I train more people and get more people under me. That would be that sort of idea. But of course, in the meantime, I'm gonna need at least, I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking to have, you know, a while of stability in order to pursue something like that. And quite honestly, it's a little hard to come by because, you know, they're very volatile. If you have people depending on you, say a family or anything, it's impossible to do. And you know, you need a significant amount of experience under your belt. So would I like to do it? Absolutely. But I would need, you know, some serious promises as far as salary, as far as benefits. You know, I don't know if I
Job
would start something
security.
from scratch, but I think that I would join on something if I know it's a sure thing, even at a pay cut.
yeah, no, that it's interesting to hear because I think a lot of people when they are posed the question of would you want to be the dictation of workflow, of payment management, you know, like I want to be the boss. I want to be my own boss. I will get paid when I want to be paid. I will pay myself. No one's in charge of me. It's interesting to hear I want to be a part of something. I don't want to be the tip top. I don't want to be the guy like I have to manage my own. When I work is when I work. It is interesting to hear. I want to be part of something bigger. I want to be part of something on top. That is interesting.
So, if I may say something,
Yes.
that's literally my position right now. Like Elliot, like what you want to do is exactly what's happening to me. Where, you don't. Yeah, in reality, like being a boss, it's like like it's cool to like think like, oh, like I'm gonna be the big man on campus, but the stress that comes with being the boss, it's like I see it every day at my boss. Like he has to deal with so much shit where he's trying to get shit done, but he has so much other shit he has to deal with that it's stressing, mind numbing how stressful it is. But I agree with what Elliot's saying about like not being a boss. I want to be part of something. That's me right now. Like literally, like today, I'm hiring somebody. I met with the CEO and I was interviewing one of Jesse's friends to come work under me, who's going to be because. Excuse me, oh my god! I'm gonna start training people. Like we're gonna be getting more robots and shit, and then it's gonna become my department of the line of production. So now I'm gonna start training people to do what I do, and I like that. Like I like that I'm gonna be able to have some people under me, but I'm not the one calling the shots. Like I have a leader. Like I view my boss as a leader. Like he doesn't boss people around. He's the one leading the charge, and he's out there in the front. And it's very cool. It's very nice. I'm excited.
Donato, I think you misunderstand me. I wasn't saying that. I mean, yes, I would like to be a part of something, but what I was saying was that, you know, I didn't want to be the boss per se. What I was saying was even the boss has somebody to answer to, and I was saying that there really is not anybody who calls all the shots. There is no dictatorship or something like that because companies that are run that way, the companies won't fail, but the leadership will. And I think we've seen that fold over exponentially because even the companies that are run that way and are successful, they have a board of investors that they answer to, which are removed from the company, but the CEOs and the CFOs, they still answer to them, even though they don't answer to any leadership within the company. So what I'm trying to say is no matter how high you go in a company, you will be answering to somebody. And so being your own boss doesn't exist. So I think the whole principle of it is just, it's really just, you're really asking yourself, are you getting in, in an existing organization? Are you getting in at the beginning of an organization? Are you getting in at the end of an organization? What's the projection like? What's the future? What's the upwards mobility within the organization? That's what you should be asking yourself. You should never be saying, I'm going to be my own boss, because that is absolutely impossible.
Also, recognize if a business is going into the high time of its structure or the low time. That's extremely important because it dictates whether or not you can move up.
Well, technically, Elliot, the reason I find it interesting that you say you want to be a part of something is because there is a situation in which you could be your own boss and you don't answer to anybody. That you answer only to yourself, and the means of production falls upon you. And in this case,
Unemployment?
it would be no, because that's not no.
Only
You have to answer
Yeah,
to
that boy
somebody.
Bernie just, you got to do the signing, and then yeah, you call the shots.
You go, I'm my own boss. I make money every week as long as the government's providing it for me. No,
Right.
but in the case that I am a freelance worker and I have someone that I'm like, hey, like they come to me and they go, can I get this made for me? Well, they're paying me, yes, but it depends on how much I take of that money to put in other stuff. Do I give to
For
myself? Do I
custom.
use it for other things? But in that situation, if someone does taxes and they're like, oh, I do taxes on the side, they are, taking commissions, and they are also a freelance, like tax, whatever they're called. But in those cases, it's like, even I wouldn't want to be a part of that. I would not want to be a freelance person because I don't trust myself to have enough of a go-getter attitude and deal with all that stuff. Like, I have to go find people who need my skill sets and people who need my what I can provide to them. I too also would like to just be a part of an agency, like work with a team. I want a team. I feel like with me, I have my skill. I am very full of myself, don't get me wrong, but I'm not full of myself. I am humble enough to recognize that I am not the best at everything, and with that, I would still have a team that I could work with to fill in the holes that I cannot fill myself. So I too would want a team, but I think I would like to be have a good grasp on what we're producing. If I were like to have a multimedia company of like photography, film, advertisement, like all different stuff, I would like to have a high ranking of it. What? Say it, Elliot. I could see it. How's your chicken and rice, Elliot? Was it good?
It was good. My nuts kind of hurt.
There you go.
What I'm saying is that I genuinely feel that'll change. I can feel myself becoming more entrepreneurial the more experience that I get in a field. And I think that with experience comes confidence. And I think that with confidence comes wanting to venture out on your own, whether you're a part of something, whether you're doing something on the side. Having that go-getter attitude is more a confidence issue than anything else. And being
Yeah.
confident in the work that you're doing based on the experience that you have is unlike any other thing. So I feel that a lot of people out of college, it's very rare to find somebody who wants to go straight to the entrepreneurial route because they don't have that experience under their belt. It's much more common to find that, that sort of confidence for an entrepreneurial spirit later in your life, in your 30s, in your 40s. People at that point, they have the experience, they have the credentials, and they have the life and the business joie de vivre, whatever, and they are much more confident to set out and create something at that point. And a lot of times, truthfully, they've had very lucrative careers. They can fall back, they can go without a paycheck for 5, 6, 7 years, and they have a strong enough work resume, and they have a strong enough professional backing, that if it were to fail, they can drop it and they can go get a job that's going to pay them very handsomely. So the risk is relatively low.
Yeah.
People generally won't go to high risk things if they're not extremely confident that'll work.
And we're in a special situation where we have someone here, Evan, who is one of the people who took that initiative, is currently in it. And even if
Well, but
the helmet industry said failed, he would still have amazing experience going into another job. Just
See, but I don't-
statistically.
but I don't know if I agree with the first part of what I said applying to Evan. I believe that it applies to his boss, but Evan came into something that had already existed. His boss took the plunge. Evan is taking the plunge with his boss, but
No,
Evan, and you correct me if
uh,
I'm wrong, but I don't think that you were necessarily the one to venture into this. You sort of, jumped into it, and that's commendable. And
yeah,
it's
no, I
something
didn't.
that,
I didn't
I
mention it.
definitely would do earlier in my career. But I feel like a lot of people, including myself, would do something like what your boss did much later in your career when you do have that security.
Yeah, no, my boss literally did that where he worked. Well, the idea came to him like later in life, but he essentially he just did normal jobs. Like he did hard paying, like hard working jobs all his life. Then he went, I have an idea, I believe, and then he went down the rabbit hole for it, and he put up all the risk. That's when he found his CEO, who helped invest, procure multiple millions of dollars over the course of a decade to be able to get everything needed to do R&D, market analysis, find out, product, all the shit it's taking to get to this point today. My boss is the one who took that insane risk, and it's paying off. Me, I also took a risk, but it was nowhere near as big as what my boss did. Like, yeah, I gave up potential high-paying jobs to be underpaid to do this, because when I came on, I fully believed that this was going to work out. Like, not everyone else, but like, other people like have been giving me shit for taking this for the past 2 years. My parents, most likely, because they were like, you need to go get a nuclear job. You studied all this, which, to me, I kind of felt like I had to follow through. Like, I didn't really want to do nuclear, but I felt like I had to do it because of expectations. But I came into the company 2.5 years ago. I took a risk because I was like, this could work. This could work. So in that time, I gave up the years of my college career, which I should have been doing to get co-ops and internships in my field, so that when I got out, if an employer saw me versus some other RPI grad student, they would go, oh, this one kid, he took jobs like Avra or, GE or, some hospital for nuclear, versus this other kid, oh, he worked at a startup, like, for helmets. It had nothing to do with nuclear. Like, I'm not going to get picked. I'm putting myself at a disadvantage by joining this company when I did, because now I'm the time that I could be using to get real world experience in my field, I'm not getting. And then, taking a salary that is dismal compared to what I could be making, I took all that risk where basically, like, what I was risking was the most crucial time of my life to get work ready for the nuclear field post college. I instead said, I really want this to work. And there were a few times where I was like, I'd be like, keep me up in that. I'd be like, did I make the right choice? Did I just fucking blow my feet off before even getting out there? But it's working out. So I definitely say I took a risk joining the startup I did, but I gambled, and it paid off. Like, it's paying off for me. So, like, but it very easily could have went the other way. Like, we were so close to the deadline. Like, we got this done like the day we were supposed to. Then past that, like, we were fucked. We were out of money. Like, no one was gonna invest anymore. So it was down to the wire, and it could have failed. This shit could have failed, and I would have been out of a job. I would have been like, well, shit. Now I have to do damage control and figure out if I could even get a job in nuclear. And I would have been like, well, then, waste. If I couldn't, then I'd be like, well, fuck, I just wasted 4 years of my life in college for no reason. So
You
it
know,
was.
you
was a
talking
risk.
about the real world experience and being like, fuck, am I doing? Like, I should, like, I have this degree. I went to school for 4 years. Do you guys ever get the feeling, like, if you end up somewhere outside of your degree, you kind of think like, oh, what the fuck am I doing? But do you ever think like what you went to college for and like where you ended up and thinking like, oh, well, that was just a huge waste of time. I could have just done this from the start? Because what I learned in high school for graphic design, what I learned in college for graphic design, is not applicable to me whatsoever because I already learned it. Everything I have learned in school, opposed to like aside from some major things that I really went, okay, like I won't like say that nothing applied to me, but I would say it's probably like 25% of the stuff I learned in college I actually can use in like my degree, mostly because my school is not so stellar art
Program.
department, like graphic design department, which I won't put this into my senior project when I put this up on TV and say I can do stuff. But most of the stuff I learned in college, I could have just, when I was 18, instead of going to YSU, I could have just said, fuck it, took the information I knew, everything's online. Like, graphic design is just all programs, and I could just learn all that, which I did, on YouTube videos. And so I look at my 4 years in college, and I really think, what did I do that for? And I guess it's for the piece of paper, but do you guys, like, from the contrast of people going, oh, I went to school for 4 years, and what am I doing with my life? Do you guys ever think, like, I went to school for 4 years, what did I do with my life? You know, like, do you guys ever have the feeling of the flip where it's like, where I'm at now, I could have gotten to without having to go to school for 4 years?
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah and no, but the way I view it personally is that I could have went, yeah, I spent 4 years getting a slip of paper, woohoo, big whoop. But to me, I see it as it's tangible proof that I started something and I saw it through to the end. So to me, when I look at my degree, I don't fool myself anything, but like I feel a sense of pride when I look at my degree because it shows that I stuck with it. I almost quit halfway through. I almost quit, switched to computer systems, hardware engineering. But I just stuck with it. I went through it, and now when I look at that, I go, yes, I did it. It was 4 years, but I did it. Like, go
So
me,
you could never work a day in nuclear engineering, and you'll be like, worth.
I really had to just reflect, like, yeah, I'm a nuclear engineer. There's a piece of paper.
You could always
do I remember any of it?
Yeah,
No.
like, I don't get
No,
paid
I don't
for it,
remember
but
any
I
of
am. Ellie, do you ever look back on your education going like, oh, I could just skip that. There was not really a reason.
No. I could have probably gotten my job with either no education or less education, or maybe not my job, but maybe a job in the same company and worked my way toward the job that I'm at now. I might not be able to command as high of a salary. I wouldn't have been able to command a salary as high that I will get in the future. I won't have that kind of job security because I'll always have to be worried about when I'm applying to a job. Does somebody have my exact same skill set? Am I more skilled than them, but they have that slip of paper that employers value more? It's not really about whether or not I found it worth it. I mean, I did find it worth it. I think I learned a lot there, not just about political science or philosophy, but also about myself, my work ethic, and just generally how to manage stuff independently. I think that it's a good experience, but I also think that it's valued by the world. Maybe there's too much emphasis put on a college degree. In fact, there probably is. However, it doesn't change the fact that if you want to remain competitive in the world that we currently live in instead of the one that we wish we lived in, we do need to go through it, whether or not we are going to do a career that's applicable to the skills that we learned, because simply having a degree is a foot in the door in and of itself.
So there are actually a few good points that you put in there that I want to talk about. The first one is, would you guys be upset? Let's say that you walk into your business, right, and then there's another person who is in the exact same position as like you would have, the positions that you guys have right now. There's another person who already has a position, and you're coming in right out of college, right? And that person never went to school for what they went, like what you went for, but they had been working there for a prior 3 years. Would you think that you are like, they don't deserve this position? I went to school for 4 years. I worked hard for this. I learned. I went to these classes. Or would you say they are better accustomed and they are better suited for this position because they have 3 years of experience in this field? Or would you see yourself on equal terms as them and be like, okay, I have a certain set of knowledge that got me to this place, and they have a certain set of knowledge in this place?
I think that boils.
We'll go with Carl first.
Okay. So, to that degree, I would say, if a person has been, yeah, exactly. If a person has been in a position for 3 years, they have to know what they're doing. A person would not survive in a position longer than 6 months, at least with an attentive boss, without knowing what they're doing. And in the time that they train you for a position, let's say if you're moving up from within the company, like a lot of people do, you get the training for the position. Like I got training for sales in my field. I got training for logistics in my field in a previous company. And I got marketing training in my field in a previous company as well. And it's just building off that, getting the experience, and like comparing it to someone who learns the stuff you did, just not through a business, and then coming in and being like, oh, hey, I could do this too. And then you're like, okay, show me. And then they show you. And you're like, oh, here's what I do efficiently. Here's what you do efficiently. Let's make the best of both worlds. So I think to a degree, again, uh, that both people benefit if you get promoted up and someone comes in with a degree, because then you get the expertise of the school perspective and then the perspective of someone who has experience in that area. So that's where I'm at.
What is
So-
what's your take on this, Evan?
So to give a different angle to basically saying like you want to know like what if I went to school, got a degree, and I go apply for a job, and then somebody's already there with no prior, like we're talking like no prior schooling whatsoever, just like high school. Like I would say that really boils down to how somebody's personal ideology is and how they are as a person, because degree does not entitle you to anything. Like you're not entitled to anything in this life. Like,
Ben
you gotta
Carson, for
work.
example.
You have to work for what you want. Like there's no free lunch. So to me personally, if I applied to a job and there's some dude in there who didn't go to college but still was there, first of all, I would have to know his background. Like I'd have to know like what did he go through prior to this, because intelligence comes in many different forms. Like there's no universal standard for what defines making you smart. In some, obviously, yeah, like if you look, you can look at somebody like, wow, like that person's too fucking stupid compared to a genius. But most of the time, intelligence is it's a very multi-sided facade of things. Like you can be very smart in one aspect, be dumb in another. Like it doesn't matter. A college degree does not equate you are a genius. It just means that you put in the work for 4 years, and here's proof showing an employer that you can finish something and you can do something well. Me personally, when I get a little upset, like when I feel a little indignant that I sacrificed 4 years of my life and there's already somebody here who didn't do it, probably not, because again, that's a completely different person with different circumstances, different life, different background, and there's no one universal way of judging people in a sense. So personally, maybe a little bit. I'll be like, fuck, like, come on, like, damn it, like, I went through this, but then it just showed me, I was like, okay, like that person's probably really smart in his own way. Maybe I can learn from him. It's not all a competition. Certain fields, yeah, it's a competition because you want to make that money. People, like for instance, there is one of my workers, new guy, another RPI grad. He, he's a little entitled, good guy, but a little entitled. He has different morals and values than me, where he is more concerned with the more trivial things. Like he wants the money. Like I don't think that, like, for me in my company, I have a very different belief system as to why I'm there. I want to be there because I want to be there. I'm making things. I like my direct intervention with making this stuff is going to inevitably save somebody's life in a car crash. I'm not there for the money. Well, the incentive's pretty good there. That's kind of why I'm still there. But I'm there because I want to be there. This guy has a little bit of entitlement where he graduated. He thinks like because he graduated from RPI, he's entitled to things, and it comes out, and it just looks ugly. Sometimes like it's just it varies by person, different persons. Yeah, I'm rambling now. So to answer your question on,
I think you're very much right in that assessment as well. Like, people tend to not see a perspective that they haven't been exposed to, especially if, like, they get into a line of discussion where, one, they haven't heard of this before, or they're very unfamiliar with it, and then they sort of dip their toes into the ocean, and instead of just, taking it slow, they just belly flop in.
So, Ellie, what's your take on this? If you came in and someone had a few years of experience on you, what would kind of be your assessment of them and kind of like your evaluation on your worth versus theirs?
Give me a second.
All right, so moving on to our next.
All right, and we're back.
Great.
So,
Amazing.
it really wouldn't affect me. I mean, obviously, I really wouldn't necessarily know about it until we were to get talking and I were to know a little bit more about them. It really wouldn't come up naturally until, down the road, knowing them. And like Evan said, obviously they have a very different situation than I do. And, it's a very different background thing. And, who am I to judge, essentially that. But it wouldn't bother me, not because they have a different background or because they did an alternative path. That wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me because I just wouldn't care. Like I just genuinely would not give a shit. Like, truthfully, I really don't care how you got there because let's take away from what I'm doing now, because if that happened to my job, I really wouldn't care because I'd be like, so like I'm probably gonna end up moving at some point. Like, I don't want to give a shit. But let's say I were to be in the field that I intend to be in for the rest of my life, and somebody were to come in having lesser credentials than I am, less proving, less experience, and less everything, and they got in because of daddy's money, a connection, so be it. So however they get in, I don't really care how you got in, and either I like you as a person or I don't, but I'll always work with you as a coworker. And truthfully, doesn't really matter how you got there. It's a matter of who goes further. And I always like to compete with myself, and I really don't pay attention to what other people do. And at the end of the day, if you do the job better than the person next to you, then you're going to prove to your superiors that you're to move forward. And if your superiors disagree for whatever reason, and it's clear that you should be moving forward, but somebody else isn't, even with less education for some other background reason that you don't find to be fair, well, that's when you can take your expertise and your initiative and your drive and everything, and you can find another place to work.
I feel like in at least for it's good not to just be like, it's like, oh, you do you. We're both here and we're both doing it. So however you got here, it does not matter because I got here too, and we're both going from there. But at least for me, maybe because it's the difference in degrees and the difference in fields, but I feel if I met somebody at a company and they've been working there for 3 or 4 years, and they were based off of all experience and no class gateway of I have a degree, I feel like that's the person I would like. Yes, if we're both on the equal grounds, but I'd probably be like, what? Like, you are essentially me in 4 years. What can I do now to get to what you have obtained over that time? Like I would probably seek a little bit of wisdom from them and be like, what can I get from you? Can I use it as a resource? I mean, especially when you go to college. College is not about learning about what's in your degree. College is learning how to learn to adapt, how to learn how to pull and extract your own information, and how to learn what you need to take away from something. So I feel like that's what I would use, at least. That'd be my one leverage on them, is to be like, oh, it's really nice to meet you. Oh, hey, it's really interesting. You didn't go to college. Oh, cool. Let me take your information.
Let me take it.
But that's the thing I want to ask you guys. Let's say you didn't go to college and you still ended up in your field, and let's not say you're bound to this field because you didn't go to college. You can't expand your horizons. But let's just say that you are in your field now. You didn't go to college, but you ended up where you are now. Do you think you would have learned how you as a person works like you did in college through the experience that you got without going to college, or do you think going to college is important for what you learn from it, like what it teaches you?
That's a bullshit question.
What do you mean it's a bullshit question?
I mean, it's a bullshit question because you're asking me whether I would, learn about myself, what I know now, based on whether I went to college or not. But truthfully, I'd be a different person if I didn't go to college, where I did or when I did. So I wouldn't know, obviously, because I'd be a completely different person. I wouldn't have lived in Burlington. I would have lived there during different times of my life. I would have been around different people. I would have had different experiences. And I would have molded my personality as well as my habits and what I've seen and what I've heard based around my experiences. So if I have a different experience, I'd be a different person. So therefore, it'd be completely impossible for me to know what I know now if I were to go a different route. I would never end up at the same place.
It's not a bullshit question when you give me a full-pledged answer.
Yeah.
Like,
If it was a
also-
bullshit question, you would have just been like, "No, why would you even ask that?" But you're
Well,
giving
no.
me,
Well, the thing is, I can't give you an answer to the question. There is no yes or no because the answer doesn't exist.
So
He
you're
doesn't
telling me
have that
you're telling me
perspective is
that
what
if
he's
you had
saying.
walked down a different path in life, you would not come to the same senses that you are now and understanding how you work as a person. Not about your ideologies of like political alignment or how you feel about
You'd be a
ketchup
different
versus
person.
mustard. But if I had started instead of going to college and broke out of school and I started providing for myself in a field where I have to work graphic design, I would probably be a little bit more confident in what I do, and I probably would develop a better sense of myself to the same extent as college, but I feel like I'd be at a better disposition, and it would still kind of follow the same paths, but a little bit more beneficial for me had I not gone to college, because college has a little bit of a safety net. There's not professors who are like, "Hey, it's hard, I'll curve the grade." Instead, you're working for clients who are like, "Nah, that shit sucks. You're not getting paid."
Goodbye.
So I
Yeah.
would still get a sense of I have to learn to adapt, but it would be with a better kind of reward system than, oh, you didn't do well enough, you still pass. It'd be you didn't do well enough, you're not getting paid. And so I had to still learn to figure out how I work, what limits I can take, how I can adapt to a situation, how to pull and extract information that I need. However, I feel like I would have a little bit more confidence. And you don't think that would also apply to you, Elliot? Like, I understand the people and experiences, but you also remember that no matter where you go, you're going to be interacting with people and having different experiences. Because you could say that you go to college and a flip of a coin, instead of going to Taco Bell, you went to McDonald's, and because of McDonald's, you change as a person. So even within college, that could still be difference. You can't say it's
Of course.
Like, so
Of course, there's
you don't
no
think
other
you would
route
still come
than
to the end at the same end if you didn't go to college, and you worked in the same field.
Well, I mean, you said it. Well, I mean, you said it yourself. You can't. Even if you go the same path, but you go to Burger King instead of McDonald's, and you become a different person. If something that small can change the trajectory of your life, or even or a small innate belief of your life, then it's going to be completely impossible, especially to divert that far into the path. So, ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, there are things that are common in and of yourself, and I think that everybody will learn them at some point in their lives, and whether you learn it earlier or later is dependent on your path. But I think that those are very, very few things, and those things are innate, and they're learned and are figured out very early on in life. What we do with that information determines the outcomes and the lessons that we learn throughout our lives, and those decisions will make us different people. So, hell, even me deciding to, I don't know, go to McDonald's for, that night when I had the mustache and it was 2 a.m. and I was in agony. Like, who knows? If I didn't do that, maybe I'd be a happier person. I don't know. I don't care, because ultimately there's no version of you other than yourself, and you'll never come to these conclusions unless you live this exact life. And if you live it even ever so slightly differently, then it might be very slightly different. It might be not even noticeably different. It might be dramatically different. I could have lost a leg if I didn't go to McDonald's. You ever think about that?
I like the idea. I like the idea that there's a life-changing decision between McDonald's and Burger King. And so I went to Burger King, and that's where it all kind of just fell apart. And I went to McDonald's.
Well, Taco Bell's where it all fell apart.
What I'm getting from your question, Donato, is the way I'm viewing it is, what you're essentially asking is, what has college taught you about yourself or about others that you could or could not have learned if you didn't go to college?
Outside of it, yeah.
So I think for me, definitely certain things would have been better. Definitely would have been better. But in other aspects, I think I would have been worse off, because, at least in a personal sense, like, I didn't really,
What's up, guys? Misalati.
Medical stuff. I never really faced adversity in my life, and that was never really pushed to see what I'm really made of, in a sense. And I think at college, there have been times when I really just had to just do it, either do or die situations. And, I learned things about myself where I was like, oh, I can actually, figure this out. Like, I've gained skills to be able to figure a problem out. And I've been able to go further than I think I could have, because, I had to. It's either you do it or you don't, you fail, whatever. But I do think, in my case, if I didn't go to college and I still ended up at where I am now, The only thing that would have really changed is how my bosses view me, and I think how they think I'm very smart, even though I'm Patrick most of the time in my life.
Well, I thought it pretty good.
Ew, nay. No, yeah,
Oh,
I don't think nothing. I think nothing really would have really changed. I think I still would have. I would still be me. Like you. You are you, regardless of what happens. Like, yeah, like would that instance of you be different? Potentially, but that doesn't mean it's not you anymore. It would still be you, just a different you, but still you. You are you. Me. You, me. We.
Elliot,
me,
what,
you know?
what did you say, Elliot, the other
Having a
night?
goddamn aneurysm here and
Elliot, what
there.
did you say the other night? You said, me. What'd you say about?
Oh, it's something like me.
Do you really think I remember?
You were like, you is. It
I,
was
try,
like,
I tune myself out when I talk.
I forgot what you said. You said, me is me if I was me. You said something. But, basically, Boogerman 1-2. All right, go on, Carl. Sorry.
Boogerman, where are you? I'm only gonna count to 2. 1, 2.
Building off what
I'm gonna end
Evan
it.
said,
I'm gonna end it.
not building off that, building off what Evan said previous to that, life is all about perspectives. You get sort of your own, and then you have to work out understanding others. Part of understanding where you would be in life if you made a different decision, such as going straight into the workforce instead of taking college, is something you have to figure out. Like, okay, suddenly I have to pay for this, I have to pay for this, I have to do bills, I have to rent a room. What do I need to do to get to those things? And how would that affect my psyche? And how would that affect my perspective, my relationships, stuff like that? And then that would filter into where you would be now. Like, if I went to getting like a master's in computer security, I would not have this crazy work experience that I have now, where I basically know the up and down of a business. I wouldn't have like this DEP knowledge as far as compliance. Wouldn't be able to even enter the job that I have now because of the prerequisites that came for it. And it's just entering in at a time when you think you're ready is the most important part of your life. So that's pretty much where I'm ending that.
All right. Well, let's start getting ready to wrap this up. We're getting towards the end of the podcast. So we're gonna ask a quick fire. Yeah, we've been on for an hour. I try to end them around an hour and a half.
Butter dog.
Butter dog, dog with the butter. Pizza dog.
butter dog.
Shout out to
You
Christian
should
Burns.
do on that.
Um,
My fucking odd body.
so he didn't change you on that.
He didn't
but-
you on that break.
So let me ask you guys this: a quick. We'll go down the line as I have here on my screen. We'll make it quick. Don't no need to over analyze things. But we're gonna ask the famous age-old question. Not that we are in our getting towards our mid-20s. We are only a couple years away from 30. What
No, we're not.
would you guys say is your dream
The oldest one
job?
here.
What do you now
No,
that we have a little bit of
regardless.
experience in different fields? What would you want to do as a dream
Oh.
job, Evan? Starting with you.
Train conductor, no question.
What is with you and trains? I've never heard that you like trains before, and today you're like, and don't forget trains. When I said about your favorite
I'm
thing.
fucking obsessed with trains, dude. I was growing up, dude. Thomas the Tank Engine. I had
All the way, bro.
Percy
all
was
the
my
way.
man.
Thomas Tank
Percy was
Engine.
my man.
Nah, man. Fuck Percy. I'm sorry.
I never got the
Yo, I'm
experiences.
sorry, bro. Fuck. Pear looking ass, pear colored ass.
I never got the experience with Thomas the Tank Engine because in kindergarten, this one kid, what was his name? Nick something. It was like Nick Pickle or something. I can't remember his actual name. Nate Peanut. It was Nate
Pickle
Peanut.
Nick.
That was his name. His name was Nate Peanut.
It's Pickle Nick.
Pickle Nick, Morty. So this kid Nate Peanut in kindergarten, we're watching Thomas the Tank Engine, and right beforehand, we're in playtime. He goes, "You can call me any name under the sun, any name, and I won't get upset." And I was like, "Oh, yo, for real?" He was like, "Yes." And so I started laying out anything I could think of as a kindergarten. I'm like, "You're a doo-doo head. You're a doo-doo fat head.
poopy head.
Doo-doo fat head, peanut looking head." I can't say bitch ass because I was a kindergarten. I didn't know what that was. But I was like, big head, you smelly, you're poo poo, you're a poo poo head. And he's just like, Like, bring it on. The teacher comes over. She wasn't having it. She goes, "What the fuck's going on over here?" And that game over. So I get dragged out. I swear she dragged me out into the hallway and said, "You can't do that." She closes the door. I'm now in timeout in the hallway.
No.
And all I hear is the Thomas the Tank Engine theme start. And I've never seen it before. And they start playing. Bam, 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 right? Theme comes on. Everyone starts clapping. I heard clapping. People were singing. There was prizes being given out. And all that was it. I never got to experience Thomas the Tank Engine.
I didn't know we were unraveling the lore of Donato's childhood trauma.
Yeah,
so
we hit a
the
nerve.
train
We
conductor.
Bill Nye comes on. Bill.
I never watched Bill Nye the Science Guy. I went to a Catholic school. They didn't believe in science.
I went to Immaculate and they still played it, so haha.
But yeah,
I don't know.
no,
They skimmed on us. They skimmed. We watched Land Before Time in kindergarten. That was it.
Oh, Land Before Time was the shit though.
Yeah, no.
we can say okay. So going
They're all
moving on
dead.
down the line, Carl, what's your dream job? What's going on with that?
Okay, so dream job. I want to do a lot of stuff with marketing. I find myself kind of enraptured by the idea of, hey, if you believe in something and then you show people why you believe in something, they'll start to believe in it. And that's always been huge for me. And it's marketing is like an extension of showing other people your perspective. And that always came as like really attractive to me as like a job. So I started out in computers because I love computers at the end of the day. Like if I could get a programming job that's good pay, I'll be happy. It's whatever. But there's so much to be found in marketing that I'm completely fine if I was working on a marketing team with a decent salary. So yeah.
All right, Elliot, what's your dream job? Is it Wall Street? What's going on? You said finance. Is that the dream job? What's the end goal? What's the dream job?
Donald Draper.
Donald Draper.
Donald Glover.
Elliot's the next Little Dicky.
Well, I mean, I'm already halfway there in that case. I would want to do something in sales, but I would not want to sell a product. What I would want to do is I'd want to sell a service, but I would want to sell it on behalf of an organization that I am representing to a large party, and I would like to do it. I would like to do it very Don Draper-esque, very much so. Very joie de vivre, very large presentation, large convincing and persuasion of this is who we are. This is what we can do for you. Here are our projections. Here is what is going to happen. Here's what can happen, and here's what will happen. And ultimately, it comes down to whether or not you're on board. Of course, ultimately, the best salesman doesn't really care if he gets the client or not, or at least the client believes that, because he can't seem desperate. So in order for me to do something like that with that kind of a confidence, I would need to have a serious amount of job security and a serious salary, working under, of course, commission. Hell, if I had a high enough salary, I would probably work for no commission at that point. But I would want to do something like that, representing a larger organization. And then eventually, if I were to make enough money and retire and I would have a career that would be purely for pleasure, I think I would make hand baskets. Nope, that's a lie. I would take up welding.
Welding's actually a really fun job.
I love
It
welding.
is fun.
I've done it like once with a 500-watt MIG welder. It was so much fun. If I didn't go to college, fun fact, the trade that I would have chosen to do at vocational school would have been welding.
Welding is a lot of fun.
I know a welder. He's
Me too.
working on the Pennsylvania pipeline right now, and he's living his life.
I'm
to be
sure he
quite honest.
is.
Yeah.
Well,
Glad you know.
I can say for a fact that my dream job, above all else, between Twitch gaming and YouTube vlogging, would definitely be interviewing people and doing podcasts. So with that, thank you guys, everyone, for watching, everyone who's stopping by and talking in the chat. Thank you for everyone who's participated. Thank you guys, the three of you guys. It's gonna be awkward once I end the video and we sit here and talk anyway because we're friends.
Made me
Thank you
upset,
guys
that
for
ending.
coming. Evan from the top, Carl and Elliot. Thank you guys so much for sitting through this and dealing with my shitty podcast. The Pogcast. Thank you, Elliot, for
The
theme.
podcast.
But thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching. Update required, episode 4, careers. I'll see you guys next time. I don't know when the next one's gonna be because it's been like 7 months since the last time I did 2 episodes. So I'll see you guys next time. But yes, thank you guys. So have a good night, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.